done it. No.
Okay. Okay. So let us go to the project folder, and I'll show you what are the samples I've taken, right? So these are the samples I have created for showing the demo of extracting the specific content from a PDF, right? So this is the invoice which I am going to extract few or one or details, right? One or two details I'll extract from this PDF, and I'll tell you how to do that, right? So let me say I'm going to extract the invoice number. Okay. So let me do it. So I have taken three samples. Another invoice, and this is another invoice. Three different invoice numbers. Okay. So first you should know about how to access a folder, and from that folder, how to access all the files inside that folder, right? That is what the first exercise you should understand. Because if you want to process a bunch of files, right? So for that you have to access that particular folder and the exact file of it. Right? That is a major requirement for this particular exercise, right? So we'll do that. Let me create a sequence. Voice processing. So first I will tell you how to extract files from a folder. Okay. So I have dragged an assign activity. So there, what I did is that I will be using, say for example, I'll be creating a variable here. So the variable is say file list, right? And the variable type is say array of string, right? File list, an array of string. So let me create this file list. Okay. And there is a function called directory, right? So directory dot get files, right? So get files, right? Get files of the path, right? So if I'm giving like this, so I'll be able to get the file. So the target folder I have to give, right? So let me give this target folder. This is the target folder. So inside this folder, whatever files is there, it will be extracted and it will be stored as an array of file paths, right? So now I have get all the file paths, right? So let me display that particular file path, right? So for that, what I have to do for each. If I'm using array means I have to use for each, right? Right. Then let me drag and drop a message box, and then item, right? Let me check whether all the file path is extracted properly or not. Yes, excellent. So the first invoice is extracted. See users, user documents, UiPath, blank process 4, invoices, invoice 1. First one, second invoice, and third invoice. So successfully, I have extracted the path of each file, right? So what is the next step? So in the next step, right, what I have to do? So here I have shown this code here, right? So I have to first open the PDF file, right? So for that, there is an option called start process. So once start process is done, right, what I can do is that I can use attach window activity, and from there I can able to extract the invoice of it, right? So let me do that. So I'm going to remove this message box because for testing purpose only I use this message box, right? Fine. Now I have removed that message box. Now I am going to use an activity called as start process. Right, start process. Very good. So now in this particular thing, what I have to give as an input, that is the files, right? The files I have to give. So let me rename this item to files, right? So these are the files I'm going to extract. I am going to give the input as files here. Fine. So now what is the problem here? The files is an object, right? So better I have to convert that into string, right? So now it is working. So now it is file. So in for each, I have to change the type argument to the concerned requirement, right? It is string, no? So that is why I'm giving it a string, right? So, and files is given here. Fine. Once you have started the process, right, you have to close the process, right? So once you have to start the process, you have to close the application. Right? So for that, what you have to do is that close application. There is a close application. So which application we have to mention? So open the invoice, right, PDF, and go to here, close application. Fine. Now what I did is that I have collected all the file paths and store it in an array, and I'm iterating each file path, and I'm opening that exact file, and I'm closing it. This is the work I'm doing. Right? Let me run this, whether it is working or not. Let us check. Second one. So it is not closing, right? There is some issue. Let us see. So here, only first file is closed. The second file is not closed. I'll again run it so that you can able to understand clearly. The first file is successfully closed, but the second file is not closing, right? So some selector issue is there, right? So I'll show you what is the issue. Close all those things. Read selector. See here, invoice1.pdf. So only invoice1.pdf, that is invoice1.pdf will be opening and closing. So the remaining PDF, it won't close. That is a problem, right? So what I can do is that let me change this one to star, right? I want to star and then click OK. So now I will run this code. So invoice 1 opening and closing, 2, 3. Excellent. I'll give you a few delay here. So there is an activity called delay. Drag and drop the delay here. 00:00:05 seconds. So if I'm giving like this, it means that I'm giving 5 seconds as delay, right? Fine. So let me reduce it. 3 seconds I'm giving delay. Okay. Let me run it. So invoice 1 is opening. 3 seconds it will wait, close. Invoice 2 is opening. 3 seconds it is wait, it's closed. 3 is opening and closed. Fine. So it is working. So now what we have to do is that we have to extract the what is that invoice number. Okay, this is what our requirement. So I'll do one thing. Let me use attach window. Drag and drop the attach window. Right. Open the first invoice. Right. And press Ctrl+1. Ctrl+1 means what? The default size of a PDF. Right? Default size of a PDF. That is Ctrl+1. Fine. So if I use Ctrl+1, I can able to convert or change the size to the default size in PDF. So I have to extract this invoice, right? So how to extract it? So first I have to indicate this on screen, right? Attach window. Okay. So now I have indicated it. So let me click this edit selector. Again, you can able to see invoice1.pdfs, right? So change it to star so that we can able to extract all the invoices, right? Click OK. Now I have to extract the invoice number, right? For that, I am going to use get text. So get text, drag it and place it here. Okay. So click that element and see, I can able to select this element. Click this out. That's it. Right. So now I have extracted the invoice number. Okay. So now I will go store it in a variable invoice number. So I have stored it in the variable. So copy this invoice number. I will put a message box here. It here. And I'm going to execute now. Whether the invoice is properly extracting or not. So the first invoice is extracted. See the invoice number 00198 is extracted. The second invoice is opened, but it is not extracting. So some issues there. Selector issues there. Let us check it out. Go to get text, edit selector. It is there. And one more problem is there, right? See, the name attribute is having this number. So you have to change it to star here. Star means what? It is the wildcard. That is what we discussed in the yesterday's class. If any static or specific value is there, if you want to make it as dynamic, you have to use wildcard. Wildcard means a star symbol. Simply you can keep a star here. And then press OK. So now you close everything and run it once again. So opening the first invoice, extracting the first invoice number, click OK, open the second invoice. Excellent, it is working. The second invoice is extracted properly. Okay, the third invoice opened and the third invoice is extracted properly. Excellent. So that's it. So invoice number is extracted. Fine. So we have to store it somewhere else, right? Say for example, I have to store it to say Excel sheet, right? So if I want to store it in Excel sheet, first I have to store it in a data table. When I store it in a data table, then only I can able to store it in a Excel sheet, right? So for that, what I have to do, first I have to build a what is that data table, right? So go to activities, type data table, drag and drop the build data table. Right. So in the build data table, you can just create one variable, sorry, one column, that is invoices, invoice number, invoice number, right? And just click OK, right? Fine. So invoice number, and it is a string. Okay, excellent. So now I have built the data table. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add the data row. So where I'm going to add data row? Here, right? Add data row. That's it. So in add data row, I have to give the data table. So what is the data table? So I haven't given the variable here, right? So Control K, give us DT. So DT, and here I have to give the data table as input. And what is the input value I have to give? Let me say I'm going to give an array value. And inside that array value, what I have to give? I have to give this invoice number, right? Fine. So it will be stored in the column. Okay. So I am going to remove this message box because it is unnecessarily popping up, right? So let me delete it. Okay. So now it is available in the add data row. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to drag and drop Excel application scope. If we drag and drop the Excel application scope, right? Fine. Okay. I'll show you another one, very important. See, this is the for each activity, right? So inside that only I have done all these process. What are the process? Extracting the value, starting the application, closing the application, right? All those things I've done here, right? So outside this, what I'm doing is that I'm going to add one Excel sheet. Okay. So let me check whether the Excel sheet is empty or not. Yes, it is empty. Very good. So I can execute, right? So in this Excel application scope, I have to use what? Right range. So in right range, right, I have to give the data table. What is the data table? DT. So DT I'm giving it. Fine. In this thing, what I'm doing is that visible, save changes, etc., etc. That's right. Very good. In right range, let me give add headers. If I'm giving add headers, what happens? This header, this invoice number, this is the header, column header, right? This will automatically add in the right range. I mean the Excel sheet. Right? So I'm going to execute it. Second invoice, third invoice, over. So let me check it out. Invoices, very good. So invoice number, this is the column header, and the invoice is there. Now you may be asking a question, sir, invoice number is 00198, but it is extracted everything, right? Invoice hash 00118. So what to do that? So you have to do some slide processing, that you have to split the string. So it is completely a string, right? This is complete string, right? So what you have to do, you have to split the string, right? Then only you can able to give a correct data, like say perfect data, right? So this invoice hash, you have to remove this, right? So how to do it? Let us see. Right. So I'll do one thing. I'll take another sequence. I'll show a demo of how to split a string. So string split. String split. Say string split. Fine. Right. This is the sequence I have created. Okay. So now let me use this assign activity. Right. String val. And I'm going to hard code. I mean, I'm going to directly give the input, right? Say this invoice number. Where is the invoice number? Let me open this. So I'm getting everything like this, right? So let me directly give the invoice number, right? So our job is to what? I have to split this invoice hash and 00198. This is what my job, right? So how to do that? That is what the demo I'm going to show, right? So there is an option called split the string, right? So how to do it? Let us see here. So what kind of function you have to use? Split. Within the bracket, I have to give the variable name string val, right? And comma. How are you going to split? Okay. So how I am going to split? Let me show you. So in this PDF, how it is like that? See, invoice hash is there, and a space is there, and then you have a number. So we need only this. Is that right? We need only this. So what I am going to do is that I am going to use this space as the split delimiter. Delimiter means I am going to say split this part and this part separately. For that, I'm going to use the space. This is this delimiter, right? So here, split string value of space, right? Fine. So then click OK. So now, if you are using like this, if you are using the split function, how it will store? It will be storing as an array. I will show you that. Right? Control K. Split values. Right? Fine. So it is showing error, right? Why it is showing error? Because it is in string. Convert that string into string array. Right? Now the error gone. Okay. So now the string is splitted into two parts. The first part is invoice hash. The second part is 00198. Right? So how to do that? I'll use a for each activity. For each activity, there I can use the split values, right? And let me drag and drop a message box. There I have to give the item, right? And please ensure that this is changed to string, right? So now run the file. See invoice hash, that is the first value. 00198, this is the second value. So it's good, it's working fine, right? So this particular split is working fine, right? So if you want to split a string, find a delimiter, identify the first part and the remaining part, right? And then store it. Say for example, if you have two delimiters, then you'll be having more than one values, more than two values, right? So like that you can able to extract it, right? So now I'm going to implement this in this particular activity, right? This invoice processing. So how to do that? I'll tell you. So I'm going to assign. I'm going to drag this assign activity before the data row, right? So what value I'm getting? Invoice number. This is the variable I'm getting, right? So let me do this. Invoice. Okay. And this is the variable invoice number, right? So this I have to split invoice num, comma, the delimiter, right? So it is not in array, right? So I have to convert that invoice split into array. So I have to create it, right? Control K, invoice split into array. Fine. So now invoice split is there. So now what happens is that you have to store only the number, invoice number, not invoice hash. Is that right? So for that, what I have to do, go to this particular array row. So change this variable as invoice split, right? Invoice split is there. So what happens that there are two array values, right? Two values are there. So what I can do is that invoice split of 1. If I'm giving invoice split of 1, only number will be stored, right? And then click OK. That's it. So it's excellent. So it will work, I think. Let me check whether it is empty or not. Yes, it is empty. Close it. I'm going to execute this now. Sorry. Okay, let me check whether it is working or not. Invoices. Nice. Only the number is shown here, right? So this is the way of extracting only the number. You can use string split to extract it. Okay. Fine. So that's all about PDF automation. So you can try with this PDF automation in your home, right, if possible. And please give your feedback whether it is working or not. Fine. Let me move on to the next topic. Right. So the next topic is Gmail automation. Right. So as I already told, Gmail automation. The problem with the Gmail automation is that there is no proper documentation in the internet. Okay. So there are some what is that? Some very secure steps are there to do the Gmail automation. Okay. So I request you to follow carefully. Right. If you are not understanding it, please don't try it. If you understand it thoroughly, then you try it, because Gmail sometimes it may be hacked, or it may be there will be some issues are there, right? So if you understand properly, and if you feel that okay, I can able to implement it, please try it, or else don't try it, right? I'll tell you the steps slowly, one by one. Please listen carefully, and I'll give a demo of it also, so that you can able to understand it, right? First, normally in any mail automation, right, you need to know few details, right? For example, say any mail automation. If it is a Yahoo mail, if it is a web mail, or if it is a Microsoft, or what is that, Outlook, right? Whatever it is, you need to have these details. What are those details? Mail server details, right? First, you should know the mail server details. So here I am showing only the demo for Gmail. That is why I am showing the server details of Gmail. Okay. So this is Google SMTP server details. Okay. The server is smtp.gmail.com. Okay, this is the server detail, right? And port number is 587, right? And email and password. So which mail ID you want to automate, right? You have to keep it, right? So if you are trying to automate a mail, right? Please give a mail ID which is not used. You are not using your, please don't use your personal mail ID. Please create a separate mail ID for doing the Gmail automation, right? So don't use your personal Gmail ID. Okay, very good, fine. So 4 details are required. What are those? smtp.gmail.com. That is the server details. The second one is the port details, 587, and the third one is email. Email. Please create a new Gmail ID and use it. Okay, Gmail ID and password. Fine. And one more thing is that you may be asking, sir, why you have to give the password? So you should not give the password for any automation. You should not, right? For that, Gmail is providing a separate option for that, right? Explain that in step by step. Please listen carefully. First step is that you have to first log into your Gmail account, right? www.gmail.com. Go log into your Gmail account and log in with your Gmail ID and password. Right? In another tab, what you do is log into myaccount.google.com. Right? myaccount.google.com. So automatically it will log in. Okay. Or else you can directly type myaccount.google.com and log into your Gmail account. Anything is fine. Okay. Fine. So now when you go into this particular link, you will be getting a screen like this. There you are having many options: home, personal information, data and personalization, security, people and sharing, and payments and subscription. Right. So go to security. Right. So go to security and click it. When you click it, you will be able to see a screen like this: security. Right. Once you check this security, right, go to the next step. You will be displayed with these two options, right? Signing into Google, right? Here, what you should do, right? You have to convert that, normal verification into two-step verification. Two-step verification means the one step is you'll be giving the giving the password, and the second step is mobile number, right? This is the purpose for authenticating, right? You don't need to give every time. Just one time you have to give, right? That is two-step verification should be on. And the second step is you have to give the app password, right? That is app password means if you are planning to use your Gmail account for Gmail automation, right? You have to generate your app password, right? How to generate it, I will tell you. Right? So click this app password, right? Again, it will ask for verification, right? So please type your what is that? Your password, your actual password, right? When you type this, it will move on to the next page, that is app passwords. So you'll be prompted with this particular drop down, right? So please click this. You can able to see all the options: iPhone, iPad, BlackBerry, Mac, Windows Phone, Windows Computer. All these things are there. So please don't use anything. Just click other. Just click other. Once you click other, you will be generated with the app password. Okay, you will be generated with the app password. So please note down and store it in a notepad or text pad. Please keep it safe. Please keep it safe. Okay, fine. So the next step is, this is the port details. As I already told you, right? So these are the port details, right? So in this password, no need to give your Gmail password. You have to give your app password, right? You have to give your app password. Okay, so excellent. So now you have all the details. Once that is done, right, then you have to drag and drop the send SMTP mail message activity from UiPath, right? There is an activity called send SMTP mail message activity. Okay, so I have dragged and dropped it. So there, what you have to do in the properties panel, right? In the properties pane, what you have to do is that first email body of it, email body of it, and email subject of it, email subject of it, right? And then the port number. What is the port number? This is what the port number 587, right? So please put the 587 port number, right? And then what you have to do is that you have to give the server address, right? smtp.gmail.com. This is the smtp.gmail.com, right? You have to add it here. And then your email ID. And then the password. Please remember, this is your app password, not your Gmail personal password. This is your app password. Let me write it. This is your app password. Let me change the color to red. This is your app password. So be careful about it. Okay, fine. So give your app password and then whom you are going to send, right? Whom you are going to send, that you have to give it. That's it. So this is the steps for creating the Gmail automation, right? Fine. So I'll show you a demo, right? And so that where it is actually used, right? I need to show a demo here. Let me show you a demo. Fine. Um, I've already done this. Okay. Let me go back to another flow I have done somewhere else. Fine. So in the last session, right, we have done data scrapping. The same thing, right? The same thing. The data scrapping is done. And finally, we will be sending this to the mail ID, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to attach a file, right? So this is the file which I'm going to attach here, right? So in the extract data table, I have given 200, right? Let me change to say 50, right? Fine. So the same exercise data scrapping. So in that, I have dragged and dropped a send SMTP mail. Okay. Fine. So let me execute the code. Okay. So it's not working, I think. Let me type this click. So click button, extract the values and it will store it. Let us see how it is working. So again, it's not extracting. Big element. Okay. Fine. So this is the data scrapping which we have done in the morning class. I mean the second session, right? So what we do is that let us send the mail of this particular Excel sheet. Okay, that is Flipkart result.xls, right? This particular Excel sheet we will send it to the mail. Okay, so send SMTP mail message, right? So let me give the details. Let me give it as say body of the mail is mobile details, right? Mobile details. The subject is mobiles. The port is 587, and the server is, what is the server? smtp.gmail.com. Okay. smtp.gmail.com. Right. So it should be in string, right? Yes, it should be in string. So you have to mention within the quotes, right? And email, give your email. Right. So again, email should be in string also, right? So within the string, you have to give within the quotes. And the password you have to give. So for the password, I have generated the app password. Where I have generated the app password? Here in this case. So gmail.com. Just logged in. My account. .google.com. So there, click the security and go to app passwords. Right, go to app password. Login. And you can able to check. You're able to get the app password from here, right? Okay. Okay, so the remaining step is available in the PPT. You please check it out. Okay. So let me do one thing. I copy the same app password here. Now it is there. Excellent. Right. Fine. So now the next step is to whom you are sending. It's very important, right? So to, okay, I'll give you on the mail ID. Fine. So that is successful, right? So now what's the next step? I have to attach the Excel sheet, right? So attach file, right? Click the attach file, right? You will be getting a what is that? One window will be opening. So here it will be asking for an argument, right? So in this case, I have to give the path of it. Okay. So what is the path? Let me give this Flipkart result, right? So slash result, right? So copy the link, and then paste it. Then click OK, right? So now everything is done, right? I attached the file. I have given the body of the mail, and subject also is there. Port address I've given, server address I've given, everything I've given, right? So now I'm going to execute it. When I'm executing this, it will work. It has to work. So I think this some error is there. 1 second. I think I've extracted one more values, right? Let me remove that. Okay. Okay, let me remove this. Let me remove this. And that's it. So how many data I have given? 5. Let me change it to say 25. Okay. Now let me run. Okay, I'm executing this now. Opening, typing, extracting. Fine. So it scraped the data and it has sent the mail. Now we have to check whether it is successfully sent or not. That we have to check. So I'm going to log into my mail ID.com. So the target mail ID is this one. See, it is successfully received. Flipkart result.xls. Right. So let me download it and check it whether it is working or not. Yes, it is working. Right. So this is what our result. Okay. So this is the way you have to do the email automation, right? So once you've done this automation, right, better go to the security, app passwords, and wherever you have created the password, right, please remove it. See, I'm going to remove all the passwords. That's it. So now this password won't work here afterwards. Right? So why I'm telling this, right? For the security purpose, I'm telling this. Okay. So if you are generating an app password, use it, right, and keep it secure. If you are showing it publicly, please remove it. Okay. So that's all about Gmail automation. right? So now we have to complete 3 more topics, that is project organization, exception handling, and arguments, right? So arguments I haven't discussed because arguments is very important when it comes to project organization. First, I will explain you what is going to be project organization. What is the need for this project organization, right? So let me take a new process. Okay, let me take a new process. See, I'm going to take a new project. Okay, new project. In that, I'm going to take new process, right? So there, I'm going to type project organization. Project organization, right? It's a demo for project organization, right? So create. Right. So when you are doing a project, right? When you are doing an actual project, say for example, you are planning to automate a particular system, a particular process in your organization, right? So you should not create a project like this. See, inside this project, see how many how many files are there, right? It is not properly organized. This is not a way of doing a project. Okay, this is a kind of mess now. So in such cases, right, what you have to do, you have to organize it first, right? So for that, this is my own advice, right? So it's not like any official procedure is there like that. No, this is my own understanding. Based on the understanding, I'm giving an idea about it, right? So when you go to the project folder, you can able to see a main.xaml. So this is your parent folder. Just please call it as a parent folder. Only major activities should be there, right? So only major activities should be there, right? So what do you mean by major activities? So let me do one thing. I have opened the main.xaml. So there, what I have to do is that I have to let me use flowchart here. Flowchart, right? Fine. So in this flowchart, so you have to you can have as many sequences. Say for example, I'm getting a new sequence, right? Say module 1. Module 1, create. I have another sequence, module 2, right? Fine. I have another sequence, module 3. Fine. So I have 3 sequences, module 1, module 2, module 3. And this is the main one, main file, right? So what I can do is that I can organize in a way, in such a way that I can drag and drop the module based on the steps, based on the requirement I have given, right? So I have given I have designed a requirement. The requirement document is called as process design document, right? Process design document. In the process design document, the document will be having based on the client's requirement, right? So based on the client's requirement, you will be having the whole complete process of the project, right? So based on the project, right, you will be creating a flowchart kind of design, right? So that flowchart and this flowchart, right, somewhat it will be same. It should be same. So that if you are showing this to somebody else, if another developer is coming and seeing it, he can able to understand it very clearly, right? So my request is in the main folder, keep the flowchart. All the other files, these are the child files, right? Make it okay, or organize it properly. This is module 1, this is module 2, likewise. Or functionality wise, say based on the functionality wise, you please organize the modules. And then what you do is that you create like this. You create a flowchart like this, right? So this is one advice. The second advice is whatever activity is there, please rename it. Right? So, for example, in other programming languages, right? What you will do, you will comment it, right? For each and every functionality, for each and every process, right? You will comment it. So this module, this is module 1, for example. Module 1. Okay. Right click it, go to annotations, add annotations, right? So this module is for the functionality 1, something like that. So you have to give a what is that? A small introduction about it, so that if other person is coming and seeing it, right? What is the purpose of this module? They don't know, right? So for that you have to give proper annotations. Okay. So likewise in all the right thing, you rename it. Likewise, right? And also give proper annotations. Then say for example, here you are creating a variable, right? Say for example, some variable like some text you are creating, and it is stored in a variable. A var. Okay, fine. So if you go to the variable panel, right? In variable panel, what you can see is that the variable which you have created, right? Right click it. There is an option called add annotation. So click this add annotation, right? And define what is the variable. What is the purpose of this variable? So this is for input value, input website details, something like that. Input website details. So give a proper annotation for this, right? Variable name should be also like should be proper. Should not give var like this, right? You should be proper, and you have to give proper annotations, right? So when you move the mouse pointer nearer to that particular 3 dots, you can able to see the explanation of that particular variable, right? This is one thing. The next is 1 minute. The next is when you are so normally in your project, right, you'll be creating number of variables, right? Variables will be so 10, 15, or 20 variables will be there. So your project will be somewhat looking like this. Say for example, in a sequence, say for example, scope 1. Okay. So you'll be creating multiple variables. Say for example, control K var 1. Control K var 2. Right? So text 1 is there. Text 2 is there. Right? Fine. So let me drag another sequence. Right? Here I am going to declare few variables. Right? So assign. So this is say var4. Or say var1. I am giving var1. var1 and 2. Right? Okay. Excellent. Okay. Right. So now I'm going to give a text here, some text 3, text 4, text 5. Right. Okay. So this I haven't created. Let me create it. Okay, fine. So now this is scope 2. Scope 2. Okay. So now in this variables, right? var1, var2, right? These variables are used only inside this particular scope. Okay, this scope, right? So these variables are not used outside the scope. So when you are doing like this, you have to declare properly, right? Say for example, for this scope, you have variable 1 and the scope should be module 1. Sorry, scope 1. Because inside the scope only, I'm giving these variables, right? So you have to properly allocate like this. So the reason is that the usage of memory, because already UiPath is using minimum you have to use 8 GB RAM, right? If you are not properly organizing this particular variables, then the problem will be like the performance will be very slow. So this is a good way of writing the code. This is what we call as the best coding practices, right? Fine. So here what happens, right? There is no var declared, right? That is why it's showing error. Let me declare it. Fine. So these three variables are under scope 2. These three variables are under scope 1, right? So this one you have to make it clear. So properly naming the activities properly and properly create your variables, right? It should be under the scope of the particular scope, right? So you have to manage in this way, right? Fine. And these are few suggestions I have mentioned now. So no issues. Please follow that. And then the next step is you should know about arguments. So what do you mean by arguments, right? So what are the details? So arguments, right? It is already available in almost all the languages. The same thing you'll be having here also, but it's slightly in a different way. That's it. Okay. So arguments in the sense you can pass values from one workflow to another workflow, right? So here I have shown in this project organization, right? I have shown, right? This is one workflow, this is another workflow, right? When I'm right click and opening it, right? So it is going here. There is an option called open workflow. Click this, you can go here. Is that right? I can go here. Okay. So it means that this particular module 1 is actually here, and sometimes, right, say the output of module 1 has to give us an input to the module 2. So in such cases, right, you have to send the values as argument to module 2. Okay. So for that only arguments are used. So when you are doing the project organization, right, arguments will play a major role. Okay. So how to create an argument, how the arguments are passed to a particular workflow, that is from parent workflow to child workflow. All these things we are going to discuss now. Okay. So this arguments means arguments can pass values from one workflow to another workflow. That means if you are passing the value from parent workflow to child workflow, then it is called as in. It is called as in. You are passing the value from parent workflow to child workflow. If you are passing the value from child workflow to parent workflow, then it is called as out. Okay. But in case of UiPath, there is another option, that is in or out. This in or out means what? Value can pass between workflows. That's it. You can just give in and out. It will pass between workflow. This is a special case of UiPath, right? Fine. When you are giving an argument name, please give us in underscore. For example, say if your argument is passing from parent workflow to child workflow, please give us in underscore contact name, for example, right? In underscore, right? If you are sending the values from child workflow to parent workflow, just give it as out underscore variable name. This is a good practice for you. Okay, fine. So I'll give you a small example, right? Let me name the sequence as parent workflow. Okay. Parent workflow. So this is what a parent workflow, for example. Okay. So let me create another sequence. It says child workflow. So now in this parent workflow, I'm going to give, let me say, sign, right? Control A. First name, sorry. First name. So the first name is, say for example, Arun, right? Fine. So now I'm going to create another assign here. Here I'm going to give a last name, right? Last, right? So here I'm going to give Vinod, right? Okay, fine. So now, as a start and as a first step, I'm going to send, or I'm going to pass the value from this parent workflow to the child workflow, right? Just for the understanding purpose, I'm giving the names like this. So please don't use this here afterwards. Okay, fine. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to invoke the workflow. Invoke workflow file, right? Excellent. Okay. So if I'm going to send a value from parent workflow to child workflow, means the direction of the argument is in, is it right? So go to child workflow, right? The create an argument, and the argument name is, say, first name, and the direction should be in, right? That's it. Okay. So in the child workflow, I have assigned a variable last name, and that is Vinod. Okay. And also I have created an argument. So in that, first name is there, in is there, right? That's it. Fine. So now from parent workflow, I'm going to send the value to the child workflow, right? So here there is an option called import arguments. Click this, right? Sorry. Fine. Before that, I have to, what do you say? Give the path of the child workflow, right? This is the child workflow. Excellent. Fine. I've given the child workflow. Now click this import arguments. See, I have created a first name here in the child workflow, right? That is what it is. The direction is in string, and the value is first name. What is the value here? This is the value. So it will automatically identify, the UI path will automatically identify this value and it will fill it. Okay. So now this first name is sent to this particular workflow. That is, it is going inside this workflow. That is why the direction is in. Okay. So now the child workflow, I am going to create a message box. Right, message box. Drag and drop this. Right, drag and drop this and type, say, first name plus last name. That is, I'm concatenating first name and last name. Right, excellent. So now I'm going to execute this parent workflow. See, it is working perfectly. So what I did is that sending a variable from parent workflow. So not variable, arguments. Sending a argument from, or a value from parent workflow to the child workflow. In such cases, you have to use in direction, in direction argument, right? So if it is reverse, then out. How to do that? Let me show you. The same setup, but I'm going to change the direction of it. Okay. So here in the child workflow, I have to change this to out. Right, out. And I'm going to use this right? I'm going to remove this, right? And this last name, right? It should be the argument. So convert to argument. Right click this last name and click this convert to argument. See, it will go to argument. And you have to convert this to out because you are sending the value from child workflow to the parent workflow. Okay. Fine. So save it. So here you have to create another variable that is last name. Last name, right? And you please click again this workflow. See, last name is automatically mapped and the direction is out, right? As I already told, argument, right? You should use in underscore argument. I forgot to put it in underscore last name. Okay, then only you can able to easily identify which is the value of it. Import argument, see in underscore last name, and then you have to map it with last name, right? Fine. So from child workflow, it is sent to the parent workflow. Okay. So now I'm going to use a message box here. So here I'm going to use first name plus last name. That's it. So let me execute this. It's working fine. So both the directions we have discussed. To transfer the value from parent workflow to child workflow, it is in. Child workflow to parent workflow, it's going to be out. That's it. This is what your arguments. Okay. Fine. We discussed about arguments. We discussed about project organization. The next is exception handling. Right. I'll give you the theoretical part of it. Right. First, and then we shall discuss about discuss with the help of an example. So until this, any doubts? Are you getting? Are you able to understand the concepts? Oh, fine, excellent. Okay, sir. Fine. Ashish sir has told that PDF activities is installed successfully. Okay, sir, thanks. What about others? Whether are you able to follow the concepts which I discussed till now? Or it is afternoon time, right? Okay, okay, madam. Thank you, thank you. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll repeat the theory of argument. So what I did is that see, what do you mean by argument? Arguments means you are passing values from say one workflow to another workflow, right? In case of UiPath, you will be telling it as workflow or a process. Okay, so you are passing a values from one workflow to another workflow, right? So two directions are there. So in I think in other languages, pass by value, pass by reference is there. Here it is slightly different. That's it. So in UiPath, how it is actually told, two directions are mentioned, in and out, right? So in means what? You are sending a value into a another workflow, right? Out means what? You are throwing out a value from a workflow to another workflow. That's what, right? So that is why to understand that I have divided into two categories: parent workflow and child workflow. Right. So if I am sending the value from parent workflow to child workflow, then the direction will be in. If I'm sending the value from child workflow to parent workflow, then it is called as out. The direction is out. Let me show it here. So now here the direction will be in. Right? And if you are fine. So if it is from child to parent. So if it is from child to parent, let me show you that. If it is moving, if the value is moving from child workflow to parent workflow, then the direction will be out. So what does that mean is that in the argument, right, you have to properly give the direction from where it is coming. Okay. I'll show again the demo because this is very important. So if you didn't understand, please listen carefully, no issues. I'll repeat it, no problem. Okay. Now, this is the parent workflow, right? I'm going to send this first name to the child workflow. Okay, from here to here. Okay. So for that, what I am going to do is that I'm going to invoke a workflow. Okay. So that is the child workflow. Fine. So it means that this value is going inside to this particular workflow. Okay. Say for example, just take a glass of tumbler, right? So that glass of tumbler, inside that glass of tumbler, you are having the water, for example, right? You are putting a stone into it. So it means that the stone is the value. That value is actually going inside the what is that glass of tumbler, right? So it means that you are sending value into it, right? So consider this as a glass of water. Okay. So now this particular variable in last name, right? I am sending into this particular workflow file. Okay. So in this, sorry, I made a mistake. Sorry. So in this parent workflow only, I have to drag and drop the workflow file, right? The first name should be sent it to the child workflow. Okay. Fine. So this, how I am sending this to this particular workflow, I have to create a child. I have to create an argument in the child workflow, right? So in this argument, what I have to do, I have to create a direction in, right? And then I have to give underscore first name, right? Okay. So in underscore first name. Okay. And this is last name. Right. Fine. Okay. So this is the last name, and in the argument I have given, I'm going to get a value from the parent workflow. That is what in underscore first name, right? So in the parent workflow, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to import the arguments from the child workflow. See, in underscore first name is there. Already I have created a variable in the parent workflow. What is that? First name. That I have to give it here. First name. Right. So now what do you mean by this? This first name is sent into this in first name. That means this first name is sent into the workflow file. Right. So when I'm executing this, Arun will be assigned to first name, and that will go into the child workflow. Right. So here, if I'm giving message box, say for example, right, first name, sorry, in underscore first name plus last name. It means that I am sending the value this to this particular workflow, and this will be displayed here. That's what, right? So when I execute,
can we give some space on the between last name and first name?
Okay, fine. Okay. So let me do one thing. Okay.
Just in the message box, sir. Just in the message box, can we give some gap between?
Yeah, fine. We can give. So what I can do is that I can give a space here, and then I can give a plus sign here. So if I'm giving like this, between first name and last name, I'll be getting a space here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sir. So now I'm executing this parent workflow. So Arun space Vinod, right? Fine. So this is for yes, sir, please. Yes, sir, please.
Clear, sir. Okay.
Okay, sir. Fine. So in case of numerical arguments, will it be reflected in both workflow? If any modification of arguments in any one of the workflow? Case of numerical arguments. Of course, yes, sir. Niranjan sir has asked a doubt. In case of numerical arguments, will it be reflected in both the workflow? Yes, if you are changing that value in the arguments, right, that will be reflected in both the workflows. Any one of the workflow in the sense, right? For example, say if you are if you are actually sending the value from parent to the child workflow, right? So in parent workflow, if I changing the value, then it will be surely affected in the child workflow also, right? But if I'm changing here in child workflow, it won't affect in the parent workflow because I'm using only in argument, right? So it won't affect in the child workflow. But in the parent workflow, if I'm changing the value, right, it will affect in the child workflow. This is what the point. Whether it is a numerical or a string, whatever it is, if you are changing in the parent workflow, it will affect in the child workflow also. If the direction is in. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you. So now let us move on to the next topic. That is, what is that? Exception handling. So very important. So here in UiPath, right? The problem with executing the workflow, right? If any error is there, right? If any syntax error is there, immediately it will show. But if there is any logical error, right, it will wait for say 30 seconds. Right. So for example, I'll tell you one thing. For example, say you have point out to a particular element, right? But the element is not there. What the UiPath will do is it will wait for 30 seconds. The default time is 30 seconds, right? So it will wait for 30 seconds, and after that only it will show the error. So the problem here is that sometimes there won't be any need for waiting time, right? Because it is going to be an error. So during such a time, right, what you can do is that you have to use exception handling. For sometimes, right, sometimes the bot won't even show any error. It will simply keep on stable as it is, right? It is not good actually. If you are deploying the robot in a orchestrator, right? So what happens when you're executing it? If any issue happens, it will simply keep it stable, right? It won't execute. So in such cases, right, we will be thinking that okay, the bot is actually executing. So in such cases, right, exception handling helps a lot. right? If exception handling, if you're handling each and every activity properly, what happens is that it will show the exception immediately. Also, the exception we are giving, right? We will be giving the exception details, right? The exception is due to element not found. Like that, we can give the exception. So automatically, right, the error will be generated and it will be sent to the corresponding user, right? So every activity, right? Every activity, try to give a exception handling, or at least every functionality or every actions. Let us say actions. In action, right? You may be having 2 or 3 activities, right? So for every action, try to give a exception handling, right? So I'll show you. Oh, fine. So I can give it as right. So how to give exception handling, right? So let us say in this send SMTP mail, right? I can right click this send SMTP mail message, and there is an option called surround with try and catch. Surround with try catch active, Control T, right? So give this try catch, and in the catch, give system.exception. So there are different exceptions: argument exception, null reference exception, IO exception, right? So such exceptions are there. So let us give system.exception, right? And give say, let us say we can give a right line. Sorry, right line. Where is right line? Let me type it, right line. Fine. Exception. Let me do. The exception is due to wrong port number. Like that. So you may be getting any exceptions, right? So let me, I purposely give a wrong port number, for example, right? I execute this. Let me comment it out because it will keep on executing, right? So I will run it. Executed. My God, it's executed. So it is not detecting the wrong port number. Let me do one thing. I'll remove the port number. Let me execute it once again. Okay, so I think it is not showing an error. So let me give you another example. Let me disable this. Okay, I'll go to this particular flow. Let me use this click activity, right? So in that case, right? So let me click this product, okay? So click this product. Excellent. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to close the what is that website, right? So the link is not available. I close the website. The link is not available. So now let me execute this without try catch. I'll execute this. See, this many time is taking for what is that? Showing the error, right? This is what is showing runtime execution error. So just think of it. If a client is actually asking for a project, and if he is getting like this errors, like he will think of, okay, they are not following a proper coding standards, right? So in such cases, right, we have to use exception handling. Let me now surround it with try catch, right? So in this try catch, what I can do is that I can give system.exception, and there it will give you right line. Right. So I'll give you a message that is exception is due to say element not available, right? So now I'm running this. What happens, right? Immediately you'll be able to get the result, right? I'll execute this. What happened? Yes, is executed. See, it is not displaying any error. It is not displaying any error. But if you go to the output, see, you can able to see the message. Exception is due to element not available, right? So this is what the reason for having exception, right? It is properly executed, and if any issue is there, it will go to the exception and will execute the exception, right? So this is what the reason for using exception. Fine. I hope I have explained you all the exercises. So let me show you a project demo, right? Project demo is somewhat very interesting one. Let me show you that project demo. Please wait for a second. I will take that project and I will show it to you. Let me set up everything. So I'll show you the demo here. First, I'll explain you what is the project actually. The project is go to Google Finance. Right. So this is what the Google Finance actually. You can able to see all the stocks here, right? So the project idea is actually, you have the stocks. So every second, right, the stock is actually changing, right? So what the client actually told, right? I need a what is it? I need a application or a robot, right? What that robot should do is that if any changes happens in this website, I have to identify it. The robot has to identify it. And what change is that? That change should be extracted. That is the change value should be extracted, and that should be displayed in some other website, right? So what the client told that it has to reflect in some other website. It has to send mail to the concerned client, right? And a local data should be available in the system. So 3 copies should be maintained. This is what the client told, right? So it should be like that. The robot should keep on executing. It has to monitor the website, right? This is what the project. What I did is I have recorded that project, right? I will run it. I mean, I'll play it. Please check it out, right? I hope you all are able to see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
fine.
sir.
Okay. So let me execute this project. I mean, I play this video, right? Fine. See, this is a stock, Google stock, right? So all the stocks are available. So this is the project we have developed. I think you all know about RSS feed. It's a similar kind of robot. So first it is scraping the data, right? And it is monitoring the data, any new data is there or not, right? Right. So once that is done, right? So any new data is there or not? If it is yes, right? Right. If it is yes, if it is true, first it is okay. First I'm checking the false. If it is false, what I'm doing is I am scrapping the data. It means that no new data is there, so I am again scrapping it. So if it is true, then what happens, right? I am what is that? I'm again scrapping the new data. So whenever it is true, right? Whenever the new data is available, so it is storing it into a particular mail ID. See, now a new data is identified, right? So that new data will be displayed in a particular website. See, I'll show you that. Okay, see, it is in the mail alert. You have a new data. Meanwhile, next data is actually shown. See, you can able to see the company name, what is the stock, how much it is changed, everything is there, right? Also, it will be displayed in the website also. This is the website. Let me refresh it. See, it is displayed in the website also, right? So the next data is already updated. Right? I will click OK. Then go to the mail ID and click inbox. See, another data is there. Fine. So this is actually like a POC we have did. The requirement is actually different. So he asked for, okay, can we do like this? Because in RSS feed, what happens now? All unnecessary data was actually scraped. So that is why the client asked us, okay, I want only these data, only a specific data. That is what he asked. So we did a POC kind of project, that is proof of concept, right? And then we shown this and he is satisfied. And the output is also available in the local system, right? And when it is published, publishing date is also there, right? So this is what a sample project. Fine. So that's it. So any doubts is there, you can ask me, right? So in tomorrow's class, so thank you, Ashish sir. Thank you very much. So the tomorrow's class, tomorrow 2nd hour, that is the last class I'm going to take. Can internal marks entry from an Excel file to university portal be feasible process for RPA? Of course, yes, sir. Niranjan sir has asked a doubt. Can internal marks entry from an Excel file to university portal be a feasible process for RPA? Yes, sir, but we have to be very careful because we have to test a lot. What we have to do is that create an Excel file, have all the marks, right? Just design a similar kind of university portal, right? And then first test it 2 or 3 times. We test it whether it is working or not. And once it is tested, and if you feel that it is perfect, then you can type it and you can use it. Exception may arise, yes, sir, because sometimes if the university portal is having any issue, then see that we have to handle it, sir. If you have an exception, then we have to handle it. If any exception happens, immediately we have to inform it to the concerned person, maybe through mail, mobile, whatever. Or one has to sit and check it out. One has to sit and check whether it is properly uploading or not, right? That is what is called as attended robots. We have to sit and check whether it is properly uploading or not. Tomorrow we will be discussing about orchestrator. There we will be discussing about what is attended and what is unattended. We have to check if robots permitted or not. Yes, of course, sir. Before doing that, Niranjan sir, before doing that, we have to check for robots.txt, right? In the morning class, I told you, I gave you a link, right? I mean, domain name / robots.txt. Please check with the university website whether they are allowing to scrape your or use robots in the website. Once it is checked and once they are allowing, you can use it. Or else, please better don't use it. But for the internal purpose, we can use our robot, no issues. Any other questions, sir? So on tomorrow, we will be discussing about how to publish a project in Orchestrator. That is what. So we will be able to complete at least the high level of it. Okay. So anyway, thank you all. Madam, can we wind up the session?
Yes, sir.
Superb
session. So we earned so much knowledge today.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Tomorrow we shall meet on at 9:30. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you.